House Leader, third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's a very grateful crowd in here today. A new Sierra Club review of government data and satellite images has found that logging of old-growth forests on Vancouver Island is increasing. It was more than 10% higher in 2016 than the annual average in the 10-year period between 2005 and 2015. The amount of old growth on Vancouver Island logged in 2016 alone was the equivalent to more than 26 Stanley Parks. In its 2017 election platform, this government committed to modernizing land use planning to effectively and sustainably manage BC's forests and old growth. This government committed to, and I quote, an evidence-based scientific approach that uses ecosystem-based management of the Great Bear Rainforest as a model. The intent of ecosystem-based management is to have a fully functional and intact ecosystem while maintaining the ability of residents to work and make a living in the area. But old-growth forests are a finite resource that will not provide long-term sustainable jobs. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Premier, what is the government's vision for the future of old-growth forests on Vancouver Island?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I thank my Vancouver Island colleague for the question. And we certainly do support protecting biodiversity in our old-growth forests, not just here in Vancouver Island, but on the coast as well and in the interior. I recall a significant stand of old-growth forest just outside of Prince George that was protected not that long ago. All of us in this place have an obligation to ensure that we are doing our level best to protect these natural resources, this abundance that belongs to all British Columbians for all time. And the member will know she and I were together in Pacheedaht territory working on an agreement between the cooperative forest license at Lake Cowichan in her constituency and the Pacheedaht First Nation in my constituency, whereby we could manage and rationalize the development of old-growth forests and continue to have jobs on the land base. And that's why the Minister of Forests is working on a coastal revitalization program that will take into consideration new land use planning strategies. But keep in mind, Honourable Member, 500,000 hectares on Vancouver Island are already protected from development. We want to make sure that that grows over the next number of years, and that's our commitment as a government.
House Leader, third party on a supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I thank the Premier for pointing out that we want to see old-growth forests grow on Vancouver Island, or the protection of them grow. The problem is once they are cut down, they're gone forever. As we log our old growth, we have also watched our forestry industry suffer. Over the past 2 decades, the number of people directly employed by the forestry industry fell by over 25,000. When adjusted for inflation, forest revenue fell by over $650 million. We have also been exporting more and more raw logs. In 2016, nearly 1 in 3 trees logged on the coast left BC in raw log form. Raw logs are the lowest value of all tree-derived products, and yet our export of them has grown. Meanwhile, many mills that provide long-term, well-paying jobs and create higher value-added products have closed or cut production. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Premier, calls for improvement in forest management, especially for protection of old-growth forests and caribou habitat, have only grown more urgent over the past year. What steps exactly is the Premier taking to achieve the vision of forestry that he is speaking to?
Premier.
Honourable Speaker, and again, I thank my colleague from Vancouver Island for the question. We have been working diligently over the past 15 months to try and repair some of the damage that was done by changes to the Forest Act back in 2003. At that time, pertinency, which, and for those who don't understand what that means, the connection of logs to communities disappeared. Had been in place for 50 years of forest practices in British Columbia, and they disappeared on the watch of the previous government. The consequence of that is now about 23% of the logs taken from our forests on Vancouver Island are now exported without any added value whatsoever. Members in Cowichan and Port Alberni and Powell River will know that Catalyst Paper is in the process of selling to Paper Excellence. One of the challenges wasn't just the costs put upon that industry, the pulp and paper sector on Vancouver Island, by U.S. tariffs that were seen to be unnecessary and were removed by a U.S. tribunal, but it was also access to fiber. The big challenge for getting fiber to our pulp sector, Honourable Speaker, is that we don't have any sawmills anymore. Those sawmills were closed on the watch of that side of the House, and we need to rebuild that integrated system so that every bit, every scrap in our forest is used for job creation and vital economic activity on Vancouver Island. That's our commitment. We'll continue to work with the member and anyone on that side of the House who wants to see a vital forest sector here on the coast.